It's time to adjust your shorts, ladies and gentlemen, and prepare yourselves to get kicked in the dick by the news. My name is Ray Stone. Today is Tuesday, November 4th. And a lot going on today. We've got local elections in New York. We've got leaders who've been elected and that aren't serving. We've still got all the normal crazy wars going on. We've got a wild golden president cruising around. So, let's jump into it, shall we? First up in the news, Dick Cheney, former U.S. vice president who pushed for the Iraq war. And let's not misremember this. He potentially was one of the few masterminds behind the deception and the incurred attack that caused us to go to war in Iraq. And if you think that's not correct, you should look for information that supports the truth. The truth is displayed by physical evidence, usually, especially in this case. So it's rare for me that I celebrate when a human being expires on this planet. But today, I want to put on a party hat and blow a kazoo and say thank goodness, because when an evil person, when a person who is, responsible for intentionally killing innocent souls for their own personal benefit and for the benefit of their little group of people, well, I don't celebrate that person. I breathe a sigh of relief, actually, when they're gone. I mean, that guy was some Darth Vader shit. He ran around with no heart for a period of time while he was waiting for a heart. What does it say? What does it say? What could we scoop out of this? When we think about things like neurons being in your heart, they've discovered neurons in the heart. That means you think with your head, but you'll also think with your heart. What does it say that a man who ignored things that may have been coming from his heart and then his heart gave out on him? Well, here we are, 84, he's dead. And quite frankly, the world is a better place for it. I believe that's true. And I was told I'm not supposed to celebrate death, and I don't. But I can be relieved. That I can do. And we're going to just pick up a few things here. BBC says, a loss to the nation. George W. Bush remembers Dick Cheney, who has died at 84. And I put this up here because it points out that I think BBC's on the take too. And then I had one more question because BBC is on the take. And I think BBC is related to Israel. And I think that's partly why some of these messages aren't getting out. I looked up whether or not Dick Cheney was tied to Israel. And it says Dick Cheney just loved Israel. This is recalled by a former ambassador to Washington. Former Israeli ambassador to Washington. So, is this just one big shell? Is this the ultimate shell game? You have shell corporations. These are tax havens where mega rich get away with doing illegal things by hiding the money or laundering it through a tax haven, a shell company. Is Israel just a shell company for any elite group who wants to take over any part of whatever they want to take over. And you have to wonder, maybe. I mean, what does the history tell us? What does the history tell us? Let's move on. Al Jazeera, New York City mayoral candidate live, Mamdani. You know, I've heard it mispronounced so many times it got me too. It's very easy to say Mamdani. One thing that I think is interesting in politics is when they don't like you, when they want to try to make sure that you don't get in, they fuck with everything they can, including your name.
I'm running against a man named Zoran Mandami.
Everyone calls him Mamdani, Mommy Dami. They intentionally try not to say it.
Zemdami.
Zoran Mandami. Zoran Mandami.
His name is Zoran Mandani.
Mr. Mandami is very good on Twitter and with videos, but he actually produces nothing.
The name is Mamdani.
And there really is power in what we say and how we say it. And in this case, you know, I really hope he gets elected just to prove that the people actually want someone who is a democratic socialist over an oligarchical capitalist. Because those are the choices that we are being given. And it's not even socialist Democrat. It's just democratic practices where we do continue to care for all of the people that come into this country. The reason they don't like Mamdani is trying his best, or seemingly trying his best, to create changes in New York City, which is so affable and so rich that the separation between those who can afford to live there and those who cannot afford to live there is probably more acutely felt than in other places. One little example, if you own a home in Long Island, you pay approximately $25,000 a year in taxes. That compared to my house, I think just cleared $2,000 a year. But it's headed there. This is where it's going to go. So by the time I'm set to retire, I will have to pay what is essentially a mortgage payment. And I better not have to. Because if it comes to that, I'll sell the house and just pay rent with the money that I make from the house. But that also is caving in, because then the real estate, the land, goes into probably some big corporation. They want your stuff. Everybody, they want your stuff. They don't think it's your stuff. They want your money. They want your time. They want you serving them. And it has just never been more apparent than now. As our Trump president has claimed that if Mamdani wins, he's going to stop sending anything but the absolute necessary funds allocated from the federal government. He's going to make it harder. So what Trump is actually saying is, if the people elect Mamdani, Trump is going to make it hard on the people. Once again, he's going to fly over them with a diarrhea jet and just shit on people if you don't do what he says. He has no idea how life works. He only understands how money works, and influence, and pedophilia, and cover-ups, and lying. I saw a video of him asked if he's going to get into heaven, and he said, "I'm not getting into heaven. I don't think so." Like, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Either he doesn't believe it, or he's not going. Moving on, CNBC, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on tariffs. Other authorities can be used depending on SCOTUS ruling. So the Supreme Court is ruling today, I think, on whether or not President Trump is allowed to unilaterally swing his dick around in the form of tariffs against the entire world. And I think they're going to find that no, he's not allowed to. And I think they know it because his Treasury Secretary, who's a soybean farmer.
You know what? I'm actually a soybean farmer.
Who just got all of his personal tariffs lifted so that he can continue exporting soybeans to China. But Besant says that there are other ways for them to exact authority, such as tariffs. Not exactly the same, but they're still going to keep trying to do it. And it's like, dude, it's not working. The businesses aren't going to absorb the cost. The business selling isn't going to absorb the cost. The government doesn't absorb the cost. It's the people who are importing the goods that absorb the cost. This is not how you bring anything back to the United States. This is how you piss the rest of the world off and make it to where they don't want to bring anything to the United States, including their goods. So, I mean, something that's an interesting way of thinking that I was told a long time ago is if you want to sell something, you make it easy to buy. And he knows that. So clearly he doesn't want to make it easy to buy. So clearly he doesn't want to sell anything. Clearly. He wants to wage war. That's what he wants to do. I think these guys in government, like especially Mike Johnson, I think he was bullied in school. I think he managed to get elected. And I think now he's exacting his revenge from being bullied unto everyone. I think it's his I'll show you moment. And I really, 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 really hope that painful things occur to people like that. Moving on. ABC. Spanberger poised to flip Virginia governorship blue. Now, what's wild to me is when looking at these two, I would assume, other than the color of their jackets, but based on the color of their skin and hair, that the blonde woman is the Republican. But I'm wrong. I am wrong. A very I don't even know how to say Abigail Spanberger versus Winsome Earl Sears. Lieutenant governor. I don't know what a lieutenant governor is. But, I mean, this I put in here just because I think it's newsworthy, noteworthy, to see that this is how it works. This is how the pendulum swings. When you go too far in one direction, which, quite frankly, I think it's obvious that the United States has swung too far in the conservative direction. And so really it is the will of the people that you see enacted when things go that far. And the will of the people apparently is speaking back. Like, we're going to strip you of your power. And furthermore, we shouldn't be paying taxes if the government's shut down. I think we should get prorated. For every day that the government is shut down, we don't pay taxes. And here we go. Speaker Johnson continues to resist swearing in Democratic Representative-elect Grijalva. That's here in Arizona. Grijalva was voted by Arizona, voted into the Senate 41 days ago. The government has now been shut down for 36 days. Why didn't they swear her in before they shut down, is my question. Question number 2, why won't they swear her in now? And the answer is, she holds the 218th vote. She would be a yes vote. She would make 218. That would be the necessary number of votes to force the Epstein files to be released. Let that just sink in. The reason they're not swearing her in, that's 41 days that Arizona has only been half represented. 41 days. Because her vote will mean that the Epstein files are forced into the light. And that fucks everything up for, I'm guessing, all of them. Wouldn't it be crazy if all of the AIPAC senators, 93 of 100, wouldn't it be crazy if 93 of our senators were on that list? Shouldn't they go to prison and experience what it's like to be in prison when you're a sex offender? How is it possible that they are free and sex offenders? If they were in prison as sex offenders, shit would get hard fast. Maybe we should let the prisoners out. Go find them. Sick the dogs on them. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. ABC was holding it down strong this week, reporting actual seemingly news. Tulsi Gabbard makes a surprise visit to Israel. Not sure what she's doing there. For the first time in a generation, there's a genuine sense of hope and optimism, but not just in Israel, but across the Middle East, Gabbard told Fox News in an interview. That's because of President Trump's leadership and the groundwork he laid through his historic peace deal. I don't know. I thought Tulsi Gabbard was a free thinker, and I still hope that she is. I think she got in there. I think she believed what we all believed, her and RFK. And then when they got in there, they probably had to sit down where Trump said, now look, all that stuff that we ran on, well, that was just for the politics of it. And now we're going to get into the real policies, and they're not what you want. And I think that's why we haven't really heard from Gabbard. Other than recently I saw that she was going up against the FBI, Kash Patel, about the way he's handling the Kirk case, I think. The way he handled the Kirk case. But moving on, we got some Reuters coming up. China and Russia vow a joint response to unilateral sanctions during a Russian PM visit. And this is China just visited with Trump. I mean, these guys say one thing to each other's faces. They use their best political jargon. Well, all that is except for our golden gilded doofus of a prez. And then as soon as they leave, they go, well, okay, now we can do what we were going to do. now we can keep doing what we were doing. And look over there. Is that a jet? Is that a missile? So I looked up CBS News. This is the homepage. Let's see what CBS thinks is important. The mayoral race is important to them, apparently. Let's see if we've got any results coming in yet. Nothing yet. Government shutdown, live updates for as Senate fails to advance funding bill for the 14th time. So they voted again, and for the 14th time they voted no. And the reason that it's a no vote is because of the ACA, as I understand it. The ACA, with this current government bill that's on the floor right now, goes away. The ACA is the Affordable Care Act, which will essentially skyrocket rates. Now, this, I think, was also a master plan. I remember when Obama created the Obamacare Act and the Affordable Care Act. And it was, there were 22 companies that had set up these regional healthcare coalitions, if you will. And within 3 years, all but 4 of them, I think, had gone bankrupt, and now we're down to 2. So what was it? It was a strap on the back of the American people. They drove companies out of business for, illegitimate claims, as I remember. And now they've narrowed it down. And who do we think is the winner? Well, it's the 4 healthcare companies that are meant to be servicing the entire country. I mean, that's a huge number. It's just a huge number. So anyway, let's keep going. MSNBC homepage. Let's see what MSNBC thinks is important. As Trump's approval rating sinks, Republicans have to make a decision. Okay. What's that decision, I wonder? As last week got underway, Donald Trump described an alternate reality he clearly preferred to the one we live in. In a post published on his social media platform, the Republican president described a political landscape in which he is getting the best polling numbers of his career. I mean, I wanted to like him, but God, he's just a liar. If I'm talking to you, and we're just sitting here having a conversation, and I say, I work as a builder, and I've been working as a builder for a lot of years now. And then a few minutes later in the conversation, you say to me, so in your time working as a builder, did you ever have any difficulties with any of your, clients? And then I say to you, I was never a builder. You're going to go, what? You said it to me. You said you were a builder. And then I go, I never said that. That's fake news. I'm surprised. You know what? Actually, coming from a person like you, I'm not surprised that you would say that you think I'm a builder. And then you'd be sitting there going, what the fuck just happened? Well, that's what it's like having Donald Trump as a president. Just give that guy as much ballroom as you can give him. CNN didn't appear on any of my Google homepage stuff, so let's see what CNN is thinking. Well, CNN thinks Trump denies inflation is hurting Americans. Yeah, there really has to be a change. If you have the kind of money that you don't know how much money you have, if you have so much money that you could lose millions and it actually doesn't affect you, then you don't get to say how much of an effect inflation is having on people. It is so wild to me. I think that there needs to be, there probably should be one more restriction on the presidency. You got to be 35. You got to be a national citizen, not a naturalized citizen. You have to be a national citizen. And you can't be a billionaire. I think you have to be able to feel the people in order to work for the people. And if you don't feel like the people, if getting $400,000 a year as president isn't amazing to you, isn't way enough money for you, then you don't have America's people's interests at heart because you don't understand what their interests are. And you probably don't care. I don't, let's not. He doesn't care. And last up, an ad. 3i Atlas, just for fun. I said, let's just throw 3i Atlas in there. And I like what Republican leader Anna Paulina Luna is doing. She requests NASA to share all unreleased pictures of the comet. Amid the growing mystery and concern over 3i Atlas, which I tend to think is actually just another scare tactic. I think it's a comet, and everybody, what they like to do is point at the sky and say, look, aliens are coming. So we are all scared, run for the hills, and clean our room real quick. But here we are. First, Mexican-American Congresswoman has publicly requested NASA to provide hitherto unreleased pictures of the interstellar interloper obtained from various instruments of the agency, including high-rise camera and the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. This comes in the wake of Harvard astrophysicist David Lubb accusation that the space agency never responded to his request for the same. Well, keep your eyes to the sky, because it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a comet, it's aliens. It could be anything. We don't know, but what we do know is in December, I think middle of December. So 6 weeks or so from now, the 3i Atlas comet or spacecraft will be the closest to Earth that it's supposed to be. And in fact, just the other day, it was behind the sun, and all this conjecture about whether or not it uses the gravitational power of the sun to turn and make a course correction, make a course change, was all the conjecture. So did it happen? I'm guessing no, because we didn't see it. So keep your eyes on the skies. Don't look at what's going on down here. Adjust your shorts back to their normal levels. Consider yourselves kicked in the dick by the news. My name is Ray Stone, and we will see you on Thursday. Bye.